Have you ever wondered what really lingers inside a morgue after dark? Today, I'm bringing you a fan-requested collection of real morgue haunting stories filled with spirits, shadows, and things that should never move in the dead of night. I'm Morgan, your guide into the supernatural, dropping true ghost stories every week. If you're new here, subscribe now and join the Morgan Dread Horror channel so you never miss a haunting. And if you've got a chilling story of your own, send it my way. The email's in the description. Before we begin, smash that like button to help spread the fear, and stick around till the end. The last morgue tale is the darkest one yet. Now, let's step into our first chilling account, the manifestation of Julius. Hey, Morgan, you can call me Edward. My name and everyone else's in this story have been changed. I'm a technical assistant at a mid-sized hospital in upstate New York, working in forensic support, which basically means I handle death paperwork and manage bodies in the morgue. I've dealt with some serious issues: suicides, accident victims, natural deaths in difficult situations. But of all the cases I've dealt with, none have shaken me like Julius's. He was a 72-year-old man who died in room 407 of a massive heart attack. It was quick, according to the medical team, and he'd only been hospitalized for a few days for respiratory problems. He seemed stable. His wife, Martha, was with him when it happened. She pressed the emergency button herself, but despite everything, he didn't survive. When I went up to retrieve the body, she was still there, holding his hand. No tears, just staring as if waiting for him to wake up. I felt a little strange. I'd seen grieving families before, but there was something about her. It was like she could still hear him talking, like his soul was latent. As soon as the staff released me, I wheeled the stretcher into the prep room. The protocol was simple: identification, registration, basic care, storage. Julius was like any other body, but as I went through the steps, a feeling of unease grew. It wasn't fear or nervousness. It was as if someone was watching me the whole time. I left him in Chamber 3. It was a quiet shift with no other activity. Administration had signed off. Security was on outside patrol. I was alone in the area for hours, filling out routine data. Around 2A, something strange happened. I was finishing a report when I heard a muffled sound coming from the cold room, like someone calling softly. I assumed it was the security radio or the noise from the hallway, but it kept repeating itself. A low voice saying, "Martha, Martha." I immediately got up and opened the door. The room was dark, only the security light on, all the drawers closed. But one thing was wrong. Julius's file, which I had left on the desk, was now on the floor near the door, as if it had been pushed. I picked it up, checked the information all right, but on the back of the page, which should have been blank, someone had written in pen, "She needs to know I'm okay." I froze, Morgan, because it didn't make sense. It was a firm handwriting, not mine. No one else had access that night, and I knew the paper had been blank when I left it. I tried to rationalize hallucination, joke, but nothing made sense. It was impossible to ignore. The next day, when the family came to pick up the release papers, I picked up Martha. She came with a calm, distant look in her eyes as she signed. She looked at me and asked softly, "Did he try to contact you? Did he say anything?" I stared, shocked, but before answering, I asked why. She said he always promised to let her know if he found peace after he passed, but he hadn't contacted her yet. She was sure he would. This gave me goosebumps. I had no choice but to show her the paper and explain. Instead of freaking out like I did, she smiled, her eyes softening, as if she knew he'd arrived safely at a good place. After that, I began to see my work differently. In the midnight silence and empty hallways, I believe some goodbyes still need to happen, and the morgue, as cold and lonely as it may seem, can be the last place where love appears. That's the story. I hope you enjoy it and include it in one of your collections. It's true, and if you want, I have more from my field. Big hug, and see you next time. Wow, thanks for sharing this. Edward, incredible material. And yes, if you have more morgue stories, send them. The public loves them, and they're rare finds. Wow, what a story, huh? This guy actually came back to say goodbye, to confirm he was at peace. Totally mind-blowing. How did the spirit pick up a pen and write? I don't doubt you. Simply fascinating. I've shared family stories like this before, so I totally believe it. Spirits often get in touch to say they in transition, or that they've arrived safely on the other side. This connection is incredible. You need a deep bond for that. It's kind of beautiful. Him caring enough to reassure her. A sweet story, even with the mini-scare for the sender. Leave a comment. Has someone you love ever sent you a sign from beyond? We'd all like to know. Hey, Morgan, call me Michelle. This didn't happen to me, but to my father, Andrew. He works in a hospital morgue and has seen bizarre things countless times. But one story he recounts always shocks me. From here on, I'll tell it as if he were telling it, to make it easier for you and the audience. Here goes. My name is Andrew, and I'm a morgue technical assistant. I've worked for years at a mid-sized public hospital in rural Pennsylvania. I've always maintained a rational approach to death. You have to in this job, keeping your emotions in check. But it's not always that easy. Some cases affect us in ways logic can't. What happened on a Tuesday in March was one of them. At the beginning of our shift, late in the afternoon, we received the body of Anthony Gerald, 74 years old. He died of cardiac arrest in the middle of lunch in room 206. He had been admitted 4 days earlier. His granddaughter accompanied him down. A young woman, very composed, carrying a bag of belongings. She asked to speak before the burial. Sir, just one thing, please. My grandfather always said he wanted to be buried with this chain. It was a gift from my grandmother. It's around his neck. Can you leave it? It's my last request. Take care of the rest as needed, but the chain will stay. I agreed. We always honor the family's wishes. I noted it in the file and continued. The chain was thin, aged silver with a small cross pendant. Not particularly valuable, but sentimental. The preparation was quick, no autopsy was needed. The reason was obvious and expected. While I was dressing him, the chain was still on his chest. I left for a few minutes and left him with the cleaning crew nearby for cleaning. I returned and finished. Around 6 p.m., he was taken to the cold room. Burial the next morning, transfer that night around 10 p.m. So far, so good. But the peace didn't last. After 7 p.m., a nursing technician came to me, pale-faced, asking if anyone was allowed into the cold room. No, I said. He heard metallic banging inside, like a drawer being pushed open from within. I checked myself, everything was closed. But drawer 6, Anthony's, was slightly out of place, as if it had been pulled out a bit and then hurriedly pushed back in. I locked it again, blaming it on vibration or improper closing. Back to the records. Less than 20 minutes later, the lights flickered. The security cameras at the entrance restarted on their own. The temperature system signaled a sensor failure. At that moment, Anthony's granddaughter returned to retrieve a forgotten signature. She asked to see him one last time, a final goodbye before the funeral. I took her inside, pulled out the drawer. The chain was gone. My stomach churned. I checked the sheets, searched carefully, nothing. She saw my face. Hers changed. No screams, no struggle. I just said, "You won't rest without this. I know it." We searched everywhere. Drawers, bags, clothing disposal bins. Within 15 minutes, the entire team was searching. Someone suggested employee lockers, and there it was, in Regina's, the cleaner, who was alone when I left. A small white purse, a chain wrapped in toilet paper. I called her. She claimed she'd seen it alone on the stretcher and thought about hiding it, figuring no one would miss it. We knew it was a lie, but we let it slide. She didn't realize its importance. But then she told us she tried to put it in her pocket, but heard "give it back" whispered in her ear. She turned and saw no one. Chills struck, so she tossed it in the locker for the end of the shift. We all got goosebumps. It wasn't just her power outages, sensor issues. Everything connected out of alignment. We made her return it herself. We supervised. She came in with the necklace, placed it on his chest. The flashing lights stabilized. The cooling monitor returned to normal. The alert stopped. The strangest thing, the strong smell of disinfectant disappeared. The air became lighter. I wasn't the only one noticing. The body was released. Everything proceeded normally. From then on, there was no direct conversation, but an unspoken rule. Don't take anything from a deceased person, especially if there's a family request. The value doesn't matter. If it's all for them, leave it. That was my father's story. What do you think? Is all this connected to the stolen item? My family and I say yes. I hope you choose. I'd love to hear you tell my father's story. Thanks for sending it, Michelle. It's a perfect manifestation. I've heard similar stories. Someone steals from someone who's already passed away, and the spirit demands it back. One was about a gypsy woman who passed away, and they tried to take her things over a year ago. The details are hazy. Some people do this, but it's a very high risk, as it can generate unnecessary karma. Families often specify cherished items for burial, like my mother's uncle always wearing the same outfit. It took me years to realize my grandmother made several identical ones. White linen shirt, blue shorts, or vice versa. Family quirks. It's not normal to want a style forever, but times are different. He died at 32, buried in his favorite outfit my great-grandmother chose. It's amazing how ties intertwine. I bet if this guy appears in dreams, he's wearing that chain. Crazy, right? My older sister worked in a morgue once and shared bizarre stories. Breathtaking. Anyway, thanks again. Hugs to your dad too. More stories? Send them in. Comment below. What's your craziest family inheritance story? Keep the conversation lively and spooky. Hi, Morgan. You can call me Sarah. It's a fictitious name. I'm 44 now and decided to submit my story, which has a supernatural and also somewhat sensitive theme. Anyway, the story takes place when I was 24, and at the time, I lived in a different state from where I was born and raised. I left home early to go to college, which wasn't as easy back then as it is today. After a lot of effort, I got into a federal university to study nursing. I already had the technical course I took after high school, but it was very difficult, and the pay wasn't good. And for most of the course, it was super easy, especially financially, since I studied hard and, until then, I couldn't work, and my parents helped me as much as they could. Well, in my last year of college, things got a little difficult, and since I had a technical degree in nursing, I decided to find a side hustle, but it had to be something at night, because the course was during the day. I joined the staff at a hospital whose name I won't reveal, and because of my nighttime availability, I ended up being responsible for covering the morgue shifts. It was pretty easy at first, just paperwork, transportation, and supporting the coroner. I've always been very hands-on and had dealt with death before, but this was different. The morgue was in an X at the back of the hospital. It was an old building with cracked tiles, the smell of expired disinfectant, and a constant feeling that the place had seen more than its share of things. The problem was, I ended up seeing it too. The first strange thing I noticed was the behavior of Roger, one of the longest-serving coroners. He was always alone and insisted on working undisturbed. One day, I needed to pick up a document after hours and entered the room unannounced. I saw through the crack in the door that he was leaning against one of the bodies with the curtain closed. I thought it was odd, and when he saw me, He got nervous, staggered, and said he was doing an identity check. But it was strange, because the body already had the tag on its foot, and the form filled out. I decided to close my eyes and said nothing that day, but I noted the time and began to pay attention. In the following weeks, I saw personal items disappearing: chains, wedding rings, watches. One man, I remember, arrived with a huge gold ring on his finger, and when he was released, the ring was gone. They complained, filed a police report, but nothing was resolved. A designer watch that belonged to a young woman who had been run over also disappeared. And when I questioned him, I heard a "You're new here, right?" followed by silence. I began to understand that there was a hidden scheme going on inside, but a well-organized one. They not only took objects, but also sold body parts to clandestine beauty clinics and private universities that were not authorized to receive human material. The unclaimed bodies, as they called them, entered under fictitious names and left in black bags with no known destination. Everything was done in secret, with false documentation, false stamps, and anyone who tried to question them was relocated or dismissed. And then came the worst. I remember it to this day. It was October 13th. We received the body of a 22-year-old woman, murdered in a brutal crime. The body was sent directly to autopsy and then to storage. Late that night, I returned to the morgue because I forgot my lab coat. As I entered, I heard muffled noises coming from the cold room. I started walking toward the door, which was ajar. I saw a silhouette moving near the gurney. And when I approached and turned on the hallway light, Roger was there with his pants down. Yes, it's what you're thinking. Extremely disgusting. He didn't realize I saw what he was doing. He was kind of paralyzed by what he was doing. So he didn't know I had seen it. I was in shock, unsure of what to do, and very scared. For the next few days, I was very tense, wondering what I should do. Until, after a while, another situation occurred. This time, for some reason, they did it with the wrong body. I remember it was a woman's body, and they thought she was homeless, so they sold the whole body. It was very bold, because I had already realized that before was just parts. However, they didn't count on two things. First, the family was searching for a missing girl, who turned out to be the same person. And second, the girl's spirit was vengeful. Morgan, after that day, we had no peace in that hospital and morgue. Supernatural things were happening all the time, and I was very nervous because, at the same time, the family wanted answers about the whereabouts of their daughter's body. In the midst of all this, 2 days later, we received the body of a 10-year-old girl, and I saw that monster being cruel to her. It was worse than what happened to the first girl I witnessed. I couldn't take it anymore and left, certain I would report him. I left very angry at him. However, I was stopped by a little girl who appeared right in front of me, the same one from the morgue. She appeared right in front of me and said, "Don't do that. Get out of here, or you'll hurt yourself." "I'm fine, don't worry," and then disappeared like smoke. I'm sure that somehow her spirit felt the agony of everything she was going through, right? Her body was going through it. I never returned to the hospital. I resigned over the phone. I remember even leaving some personal belongings in my locker. I was afraid to report it because I'm sure I'd be the first to be questioned. For a long time, I was very paranoid, thinking they were following me and watching the house. This happened a few times, but it was enough. I believe it was because of the way I left. And I even left personal belongings behind. They must have suspected I'd seen something I shouldn't have, but since I didn't report it, they kept quiet. I was certain the scheme inside was something very large, and that it must have extended beyond the employees I knew and interacted with daily. In total, I spent 5 months at that hospital, but I witnessed many strange things that I haven't shared. I had a lot of support from my parents, who understood the situation, and I stayed there for a few more months. as it was already my last year of college, as I mentioned. And it was terrible because, as I said, I felt watched all the time. And fortunately, as soon as college ended, I finally returned to my home state. And only here did I finally find peace and be able to be less tense about it all. I only had the courage to write to you because I learned that about 10 years later, someone had the courage I didn't. And they reported that hospital. I really hope you read it. Big kiss. Wow, what a heavy story, everyone. I completely understand why she didn't report it. It's a very complicated situation, which sometimes leaves us tied hand and foot, because if you report it, it could end up hurting you too. So, I think you did the right thing. I won't criticize you or anything, because only those who have been through it know the reason for your decision. Thank you. If you've made it this far, you're fearless, and that means you're one of us. If morgue hauntings and real-life ghost stories keep you coming back for more, subscribe now and join the Morgue and Dread Horror channel. I post new real-life paranormal encounters every week. Do you have your own scary story? Maybe a hospital, morgue, or haunted place you've experienced. Share it in the comments below. Our community thrives on your stories. And don't stop here, the scares continue. On the final screen, I've included 2 more scary stories. Click one now and keep the fear alive.